Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy Saturday. I wanted to come live tonight and talk about empaths and energy, talk about some current events and how to handle them as an empath. So give me a second here while I pin a comment for everyone coming in. So today is currently Saturday, May 14th. If you are seeing this at another time on the replay, stay tuned. We're going to talk about some good things that are definitely timeless as well. But tomorrow, May 15th in the afternoon here, US time, I am having another Empaths and Energy event live on Zoom, where we're going to be going over a whole lot of things about empaths and boundaries and dark empaths, and we're going to be doing energetic body scan readings, which is going to be really fun. So feel free to use the link in my bio or in the description if you're watching this on another platform and purchase your ticket. If you're watching this at a later time, you can use the same link and either join waitlist or sign up when the next dates are announced, or you can also work this energy with me anytime one-on-one. But until we do that, I wanted to talk tonight live about some of the current events that are happening in the world. I haven't been too vocal publicly about things that are happening here in the US with Roe versus Wade and women's rights, etc., even though I am passionate about that. I've been very particular in how I share and what I share publicly because of a reason that I'm going to talk to you about now regarding empaths. So you may not actually know or realize, but empaths, we so frequently define being an empath as being someone who picks up on and absorbs energy. But really, one of the points of that is so that we can also learn how to turn it around and project energy out into the world. So here in the US today, there were a lot of protests, rightfully so, about the issues coming up in the court with Roe versus Wade. And something that's little known about the empath community is that when an empath is also an activist, most especially when they are in a group or in a large group or in a public space or in something like a protest, an empath is going to raise, or at least have the power to raise, the energy of that group, of that platform. So this is the point of getting to a station in your empathness where you're not just constantly being drained. This is why we learn to have boundaries, why we learn about ourselves, why we learn about our energy, and why we learn about our gifts and our subsequent gifts that come along with being an empath. Because eventually we can learn to control that to a degree. Obviously, we can't control everything, but we can learn to control it to a degree where we can use it for good, not only to preserve ourselves and our energy, which is very important. You know, that's how most empaths come to learn about being an empath and wanting to learn about the energy and the modalities and all that, is because we just get so drained and so bogged down and so exhausted from being around or with people or groups or in school or families or what have you, that we just need to learn about ourselves. We need to learn these things to self-preserve and to protect and to heal from all of the trauma of picking up and constantly vibing with other people's energies or being programmed from other people's energies. And while that's very valid and very important, there's another level here of also being able to raise the vibe and raise beyond that and realize that your empathness is also connected with gifts that you can have. And we're going to talk about those gifts tomorrow in Empaths and Energy, the types of gifts that can come along with being an empath. But one of them is that no matter what field your gifts lie in, you will have the opportunity to work with your energy and the energy around you and raise it. So like I was saying, we are not just absorbers, we are projectors. And so when an empath is part of something like a protest, or even part of something like spreading information online, doing this, what I'm doing right now, being an influencer of any kind, just sharing posts and sharing information. You are not just sharing, you are projecting. And not that anyone is better or higher than anyone else, but when an empath shares something, they have the opportunity to project more energy with that share than the average person, okay? Because though empath is a very, very common word right now, there are statistics that say really only 2 to 5% of people in the world are actual empaths. Now, there's something like 20-25% and raising all the time that are what's called HSPs, highly sensitive people, but they are similar but different, because empath is the next level of that. And we're also going to go into tomorrow how empaths are both born and made, because there are some empath things that are trauma responses that are more akin to also being a highly sensitive person, and that has to do with how we were raised. But those trauma responses can also play a part in how we share things the way we do, whether that's, again, sharing them online, talking about them publicly, having very heated debates with our family and friends, how we react to the news, how we share it, and how we allow ourselves to become a part of it. So when we hear a piece of information, when an empath or even a highly sensitive person watches the news, okay, we are going to be able to tap into that energy stream of whatever is being projected. And it's very important to remember, most of the news is projecting fear-mongering. Even if it's accurate, factual information, the news is a business. The news media is a business. And business thrives on 2 things, money and energy. And of course, money is energy. But the more attention something gets, the more money it makes, etc. And so a lot of the news media is crafted and created, even when factual and telling the truth. Okay, we're not going to debate, fake news or anything at this time. But most of the news is crafted and projected in a way where it is promoting fear. It is soliciting an emotional response from you to keep you engaged. And so that could be any story that there is. But if you'll notice, that's why there are more fear-based stories than love-based stories, not only because the world is in Kali Yuga and time of upheaval right now, but because the loving and the positive stories just will not either get as much play, or even if they do get a lot of play and sharing, they will not solicit as much attention or money making for these companies as when something really hits you in the feels and hits you in the fear and gets you activated and up and moving, even if that activation is not in a healthy way. And so what we need to strive to do, in my opinion, as empaths, light workers, starseeds, highly sensitive people, whatever you like to label yourself as, is we need to work to become more conscious about our responses to things, about our reactions to things. And if it's not an emergency, or even if it is, we need to learn to have the mindfulness and the patience, again, in my opinion, to sit with our feelings and our emotions and sort through them before we share, before we project, before we have the reaction, and before we have the uproar. Now, righteous anger, there's absolutely a place for. No one is saying that we have to be perfect and not have a response or a reaction or our feelings. But is it truly responsible to use our gift chaotically, in terms of just responding right away and having those gut reactions go out there, which there is power in, but is it responsible use of that power? That's a personal question for everyone. In my opinion, it's more responsible if and when we can process our own energy first, sort through what energy is streaming at us from the projection and the perception of these news stories, or of the news that we hear from friends, coworkers, etc. Sort of disentangle the energy, de-bomb it, if you will, from what other people are trying to put on it, and try to see it for what it is and what our reaction is to it, what good can come from it, etc. Now, that's not to say that you have to see the blessing in everything or to promote toxic positivity. But it is saying that if we can come to a place first where we can think about it and see more than one side before we project it into the world, I think that's a much healthier place to be. It's a more powerful stance to take, and it enables us to not give power away back to the very thing that we are having the reaction to, for, or about. In other words, for example, the Roe versus Wade things that have been happening in the US, in my country, it's so easy to just get in the uproar and be fearful about what this means for women, for female genitalia-bodied people, because, you know, non-binary and trans folks are definitely affected by this as well, so we don't want to exclude them, as I learned to definitely remember to reiterate from something that a friend of mine is going through this week in reaction to that, although as part of the LGBT community, my fellow alphabet family members are always on my mind anyway. But it can be so easy to stand in these positions where we have the potential, remember it's potential, but we have the potential to be affected by these rulings, which honestly, it still baffles me, especially as a starseed. It still baffles me. Why does that potential exist? You know, can we ask that question more often? Why does the potential exist for a government or any ruling body to rule over somebody's personal bodily health functions or choices? That's the question we need to really be asking ourselves more often, in my opinion. And I think that that's something that will take us out of the religious debates. Again, you know, I'm a very spiritual person, but I'm very studied in religious history, as well as all aspects of metaphysics and spirituality that I can study and get my hands on. And very few things on this planet have killed as many people as religion, because people fight for it sometimes without even really knowing or understanding why, and infringe on other people's rights. And I hate it. I detest it. I think it's disgusting. I don't care what your beliefs are. I do very much. I care what your beliefs are, and I care about you and your beliefs and your right to have those beliefs. But it may be funny for me to say, as a spiritual person who promotes and helps people understand energy and their beliefs, but I come from a place where there is no absolute. There's no absolute belief. There's no absolute right and wrong. Everything is circumstantial. God themselves, in my experience and my opinion and my vast travels with them, God themselves adjusts constantly, coming in different form after different form to present themselves, because I'm going to say them because I see God as both masculine and feminine, coming in either masculine, feminine, or androgynous form, depending on the person, depending on the culture, depending on the time period, and depending on how it will be helpful to us as spiritual beings that are part of that source. So if even God themselves can constantly adjust based on circumstances and based on what is right for those individuals, why are we still not willing to adjust based on respect for our fellow human beings? And to me, it's all a power trip. It's projection. It's, you know, again, feeding off of fear. There are two main forces in this universe, energy-wise, and that's fear and love. And, you know, we're constantly oscillating between which is the baseline for what we're doing, what we're feeling, how we're reacting, what we're acting on. And unfortunately, and it's getting better with many people healing and awakening, but unfortunately many of us still live on a day-to-day basis reacting based on fear, or acting based on fear, based on lack, based on limitation, based on intrusion, or other people's assertion of their perceived power, right? Because God is the true power source, and we are part of God, so we have the power over ourselves, but we still end up giving it away so very often. Now, there's a place for government, there's a place for ruling bodies that help keep the peace, if in fact they do that, but why are we giving personal power, and so much personal power to that. It all kind of ties together for me in being a co-creator of your universe and of your life and a manifester and all of the things that we like to talk about here and in so many of the spiritual places in the communities. But these are all important questions to ask yourself. And, I don't often share about my personal beliefs because they're just not always relevant. They're relevant to me, obviously, and to how I live my life, but personal beliefs can be such a stopper in connecting with people and helping people because many people aren't willing to look past them, which is unfortunate because not looking past some personal beliefs, as long as those beliefs are not infringing upon other people's rights, is a divisive act. And that's also the point of the news media and government and so much of the coverage about it is, can it be divisive? Can it get people talking and fighting and arguing amongst themselves? And what happens when that happens? We're all fighting about something that's only a potential, right? It hasn't actually happened yet. We're all fighting about something that's a potential, and we're so worried about it, most of us aren't even actually doing anything about it. And what's happening during all of that chaos and uproar, there are governmental bodies and energetic beings, in my opinion and experience, that are feeding off of that chaos, feeding off of that energy, and feeding off of the ability to do whatever the hell they want while we're all distracted fighting with each other. And they're going to do whatever they want anyway. It's just that we've lost the power to have influence and the kind of influence we want over those situations because we're so busy having our reaction or fighting with one another that nothing's actually getting done or changed, and they're able to do whatever they want, which is the opposite of what we want. But that's what happens when you act from a place of reaction rather than processing and power. And so getting back full circle to how we were talking about it in the beginning, as empaths and light workers especially, and I've lost connection with friends who are in this community that sometimes have caused more harm than good because they preach something, but then when something happens in their life, they react a different way. And they have such a reaction that gets their followers or clients or something in an uproar rather than bringing soothing and healing to the situation and bringing perspective and empowerment. And, there's a place and a time for that, and I'm not trying to judge anyone, which is why I will never call out a name. But I don't agree with it. I don't agree with using our platforms or our power or our ability to project, whether you have a platform or not. If you're an empath, you still have a platform. That is your platform. You have that energy. You have that power. No matter how many people you know, no matter how many people are on your friends or followers list, walking into a space, your energy changes that space. Listen to Dolores Cannon, 3 Waves of Volunteers, and how she talks about that you can just go into a place, you can walk into a mall, and the energy will shift around you. It absolutely does. Our energy, because we are more aware of it, because we are more responsible to and for it, and are more tapped into the ability to understand it and to heal it and to do good with it, our energy can be more impactful than the average person's energy. And again, it's not better or worse or more important or less important. It's just different because it's just a rock that hits the water differently and will ripple out farther, okay? And we have a responsibility to understand ourselves and our own energy so that we can hopefully have those ripples be doing more good than harm rather than more harm than good. And so if you can, get into more mindfulness practices, get into more healing. If you can get into the habit of having processing of your emotions, of the energy that's coming at you through the news, through what your friends and family tell you, through what your boss tells you, etc. If you can get into the habit of taking even a few seconds of mindfulness to ground and disentangle, like I said, what is truth? What is your truth? What do you want from this? What do you want to learn from it? What are you supposed to be learning from it? I know it's a lot of things, but if we can ask ourselves even one or two of those questions before we immediately jump to press share, before we immediately jump on a call or a text with someone else about our reaction to the thing, it can do so much more good in this world. Because what happens is, even if we lessen the frenzy and fear energy by 5% that we're putting out there, that's a huge impact, right? That's why sometimes it's better to be silent. I absolutely want everyone to use their voice, but sometimes it's better to be silent, even if that silence is just for a few seconds, so that you can know and have responsibility to and for the energy that you're sharing in the world. Absolutely have your feelings and your opinion about what's happening. But number one, first and foremost, always remember that you have more power than you think you do. You have the power over you, and you are a co-creator in your life, in your universe, and you have the power to consent to your experience or not. You have the power to consent to if something is going to make you fearful and be swept up in that frenzied, fearful state and react and be controlled based on that. Or if you're going to go the other end of the spectrum, not consent to that, put the boundary up, put the hand up, whatever, and take the time. And even, like I said, if you can lessen that fear, if you can lessen that reaction by a couple of percentage points, then you're in control of you. Then there's no person, place, thing, government, energy, entity, demon, whatever you want to say. There's nothing that can take control of you from that standpoint. All right? One of my favorite quotes ever is that nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. Been spending a lot of time with her beautiful energy lately, and highly recommend. Read about her. Read her words. Very fascinating and inspiring woman. But it's true. We have more consent than we think we do. We just forget that we have that consent. We forget that we have that power. We forget that we can be influenced, but we can then understand we're being influenced and stop that. And in my opinion and experience, only when we come back to that place of understanding, when we come back to that place of power, when we come back to that place of using our consent and our energy powerfully, can we truly make the change in ourselves, in our lives, and in the world that we want to. Okay, so as we're facing all these really scary things in the world with wars and with rulings or potential rulings, with leaks, which, why do you guys think those things are leaks? Because it'll cause more of an uproar, okay? And that's the point. There's a lot in this world that likes to feed off of your energy. That's why protecting our energy, understanding our energy, and healing it is so important, So we're going to be talking about all of this and more, again, like I said, tomorrow in Empaths and Energy. It's a group container on Zoom. And tomorrow, May 15th, 2022, in the afternoon. You can buy your tickets now. We're going to be having this container. We're going to be talking about empaths. We're going to be talking about energy boundaries. We're going to talk about dark empaths, which I find fascinating and so important. Some people don't realize that a lot of the most tumultuous figures in history were actually empaths. They're just dark empaths. We're going to be talking about narcissists and the narcissist empath polarity, which let's face it, a lot of people in government and in places of power are narcissists and have made or created the point for a lot of these changes that are happening in the world because of that narcissism. And we're going to be doing energetic body scans. So the importance of that is throughout the whole thing, you'll get to ask your questions about empaths and about any of the teachings, but then we'll also be doing personalized readings of your energetic body scan, of your boundaries, of maybe blockages that you might be having, triggers, how it could potentially affect health issues, because a lot of empaths, we're, like I said at the beginning, we are absorbers and projectors, but that absorption aspect, before we learn to project, or even as we do, that absorption aspect can get blocks and boundaries within us, within our belief systems, but also within our health. So I'm a physical empath as well. A lot of empaths are in fact physical empaths to a degree, meaning that their physical body will help them process the energy that they're constantly picking up on and tuning into. And so a lot of empaths will struggle with things like autoimmune disorders, with general fatigue, with aches and pains that may not have an explanation. And now, disclaimer, not a doctor, please read the disclaimer on the ticket page, but I have had a lot of experience in this area as it pertains to the energy and different health conditions that has been linked to, and coming at health from the standpoint of both energy and medicine, and having these energetic body scans and things, I have found immensely helpful for those that are working from a holistic healing standpoint and point of view. So looking at the self as a whole, as the body, as someone that is also affected by energy, and having information that you can maybe potentially take to your doctor or ask your doctor about. My clients have had a lot of success with that, getting something in reading and then asking their doctor about it, and then being able to work it from both sides so that they have that holistic healing standpoint and health standpoint. So I'm really excited and happy about that. And by doing these things in group containers on Zoom, it allows me to make it more affordable and more accessible. There are also payment plan options on my website on everything over $50 anyway. So feel free to take advantage of that if you need to. It's for pay, price plan installment. But this is currently the most affordable way to energy work with me live. So I'm really excited about that. Again, if you're watching this on replay at a later time, you can use the same link that's either in the bio or the website video description, because that link will be updated with new dates, new times we do this. I would love to get a whole bunch of these groups going so that we could reach more people and help more people, especially now with everything that's going on in the world. I would love to have more empowered empaths out there and to be able to personally help more of you. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned, and if you are still at a very, very shy standpoint, you're not quite comfortable with groups yet, or if you want to take it a step further, you can also always work this energy with me one-on-one through quantum sessions and things like that. And I also offer energy healing packages and life coaching packages, quantum life and consciousness coaching. So you can contact me if you're interested in a package and see if we're a good fit. We'll do a discovery call. But sessions and the live groups and things you can always find on my website, damseldesigns.com, along with energy art and enlightened merch items that are up there, things like mandala of the month, things you can meditate with, energy art that you can meditate with and get activated with to help with your energy sensitivity, with your energy boundaries, with your third eye enhancement, and all the things. By the way, I have incense going and it is popping like crazy, you guys. So Spirit is really excited about this. It's cinnamon incense, by the way, so that's extra power and protection and prosperity and positive protective energy for you fellow empaths out there. So sending some of that your way, whether you see or feel the smoke or not, and whether you're watching live or on the replay or not, I am confident that energy will reach you. And yeah, tell your friends about this. If you're watching this later, feel free to leave a comment and ask me questions. Remember, in the Empaths and Energy container, you can ask any questions that you need or feel called to about your personal empathness, things and difficulties that you found going throughout life, triggers that you have, etc. So I'm really excited to hear your questions and answer them tomorrow. Or later today if you're watching this on the replay, and you can check the page for what time tickets will be on sale to. There's probably only a few hours left depending on when you are watching this. And yeah, leave a comment anyway. I would love to know your thoughts, even if this is after the event that's currently scheduled, because it's a lot here, and I find it really important that we actually talk about these things. And again, not to shame anyone who is in their feelings when they're sharing about current events and such, but one more thing I would like to say about the current events that are happening in the world right now is although abortion and control over our bodies and our reproductive systems is vital, in my opinion and experience, okay, is so important and is so scary for not only people with female genitalia, okay? It should be scary for everyone, but I don't find it the main issue here. Now, you can argue with me, but just listen for a second. I do not find that is the main issue at this time. I find that is the main talking point at this time because that will get people most reactive, right? To me, it immediately felt like talking with someone that I have been narcissistically abused by, and it feels like for empaths who have gone through narcissistic abuse, just hear me out. It feels like when the narcissist brings up that thing that has absolutely no relevance to the current time, but brings up that thing that they know will get you going, that they know will hurt you to the core, and just brings it up to distract from something else that's currently happening or being brought up in their life. That is what this whole Roe versus Wade thing feels like to me. I was remembering, so there's I'm old lady up here, so my references are very old, bear with me. I'm trying for newer references, guys, but anyway, so I was immediately thinking about, there's an episode of Maude with B. Arthur, who later played on The Golden Girls, from the 70s, where Maude, as an older woman character, has an abortion. You know, she has a geriatric pregnancy, and she doesn't want that child. It's not going to have a good life, in her opinion, from her and her husband's standpoint of where they are in their life. And so she has an abortion. She has a grown daughter who talks her through it and tells her it's not a dirty word anymore. Abortion isn't a dirty word. You voted for it to become legal, and it's fine now. And if it's right for you, it's right for you. And we're in a totally different place in life. And I just kept thinking of that. I had to go and watch it again, which suspiciously, the whole thing is not on YouTube anymore. It used to be, the entire episode used to be on YouTube. It is not anymore, which is very suspect to me. It's called Maude's Dilemma, by the way, if you're looking for it on YouTube or a streaming service that plays Maude. I know Hallmark Channel, some of the channels play it still. But it's a very feminist show. And it was very progressive for the time. And I'm so saddened that you can listen to that. And literally, that's 50 years ago. This November, I think it aired originally November. That was 50 years ago. And we're still in a place where we need to have that conversation again? Are you serious? Why are we still fighting about this? Because they can make us fight about it. That's why. It's not because of people's religious beliefs. It's not, in my opinion. It's because they can still make us fight about it. They could still make us fear about it. They can still get us where it hurts about it. Like a narcissist that wants to antagonize you and get your attention drawn to something hurtful about you so that they can pull the attention away from something else hurtful that they're doing. Okay, so that's what I believe and have experienced that this whole uproar is about, okay? So think about, yes, be in your feelings, be supportive of women's rights and reproductive rights of every gender, and privacy rights are going to become more important than that from what I'm seeing. As a psychic medium, okay, it's never foolproof because timelines shift all the time. But from what I'm seeing and how I'm seeing through things, you guys think about the privacy rights. Think about more than this. Yes, care about it. Yes, fight for it. Yes, stand up for yourself and your loved ones. But go the step beyond it because they don't want you to go the step beyond it. Think farther down the line because right now, this is the point of conversation. But it impacts so much more than this. You know, it affects contraception. It affects people that make their families through things like IVF, which as an LGBT community member is important. It affects LGBT. It affects period rights. It affects health in so many various degrees. And it affects privacy rights in terms of the loving case, couples that can get married biracially. Those were all connected to the same thing, to the same point of logic here. Those are all connected to the same point. So think about all of that and try to stop hyper-focusing on one element and aspect on it, because when we can think about all of it and have the larger perspective, then we have more power, then we have more empowerment to actually do something about it and to actually protect the rights that are getting so triggered by one element. It's a very important element, but it's far from the whole picture, okay? And I would just like to see more people come at it from that point of view and come at it from a point where they've already processed, like I said, their feelings before sharing so much about it, because I want us to project from a place of power. I want us to make change from a place of power and not from a place where it's still like we're asking for it, we're begging for it, because when you are fighting so hard, when you are yelling and screaming and crying, there is an aspect of your being that is begging, because that means there is a large part of your being that still believes that other, whether you are crying and screaming and fighting in an argument with someone personally, or whether you're crying and screaming and fighting in a public protest, if you are having that extent of reaction, that means you are still consenting to the other person's power over you. And I'm not about that. Or I try not to be. I'm not perfect, but I try not to be. You know, we're all still healing. But that's where I'm coming from. And I would be very proud to come there with more of you. That sounded almost dirty, so it's getting late on a Saturday night. Time to hop off soon. But I would love to come there with more of you. I appreciate you no matter who you are, no matter what your belief is, and no matter how you are using your energy. I appreciate you, and I especially appreciate you if you are here, if you have listened this far, and if you are willing to see other perspectives and take responsibility for your energy. You're a superstar. You don't have to be perfect in doing it. You're a superstar to me, and I appreciate you. So again, you can find everything at damseldesigns.com. Links everywhere, bio, description, caption. And you can catch me daily here on Instagram, or on Instagram if you're looking at this someplace else. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for your love and follows and for sharing this, even if the programs aren't for you yet. And goodbye for now. With love, light, and light codes, love, Danielle, #damsel at DesignsEdits, damseldesigns.com.